Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, A Blueprint for Rainmaking Success, presented by Jaimie Field. My name is Stephanie Phelan, and I'm a marketing manager at MyCase, and I will be your host today. I'd like to give you a few tips first about participating on Gotowebinar. The webinar control panel is on the right-hand side of your screen. This is where you can control the audio, chat with me, and submit questions. Please use the questions pane to submit your questions at any time during the webinar. I'll be collecting those questions and saving them to ask Jaimie at the end of the presentation, but please don't wait until the very end to shoot those over to me. Also, please note that these slides and the recording will be available by end of day tomorrow on the MyCase blog, and it will also be emailed to all registrants. Lastly, the Twitter hashtag to follow the conversation is #MakeItRain. Today's webinar is hosted by MyCase, so before we jump into things, I'd like to give you a quick overview. MyCase is a web-based law practice management software that takes care of your daily practice requirements for calendaring, contact management, document management and templates, time and billing, client communication, custom workflows, and more in one solution at an affordable price. MyCase is priced for solo and small firms at just $39 a month per attorney and $29 a month per paralegal or support staff. We also offer MyCase websites for our customers. The cost to set up and build your website is only $500, and then there's a $50 per month maintenance fee. We offer a modern, professional design built for your firm. The websites contain social media and blog integration as well, and best of all, complete integration with MyCase practice management software. So now you and your customers can log into MyCase directly from your website. Last but not least, we enjoy hosting educational events for professionals in the legal industry, and that's why we're all here today. So let me tell you a little bit about our presenter. Jaimie Field has been involved in the legal industry since the age of 12. She worked at her grandfather's law firm in New York City and her father's firm in New Jersey during breaks from school. It was because of those experiences that she wanted to attend law school and become an attorney. After graduating from Temple University School of Law, Jaimie got a job as an in-house associate for a startup entertainment company. With very few people on staff, she was called upon to perform other tasks other than those related to law, including business development, marketing, and public relations. With this, she realized her talent for legal marketing and also a great opportunity. In 2002, Jaimie opened Marketing Field, LLC, a marketing and business development consultancy devoted to help law firms grow by obtaining new clients and marketing their firms. Marketing Field's focus later shifted, and Jaimie began teaching attorneys one-on-one and in group settings how to become rainmakers. As you will soon see for yourselves by the end of this webinar, her seminars are always entertaining and informative. She believes with the right teacher, anyone who has the ambition and drive can use their individual personalities to create the law practice they really want. And as her tagline says, rainmakers are not born, they are taught. I'm pleased to welcome Jaimie Field as our presenter today. Jaimie, thanks so much for being here today. I'm going to let you take it from here.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I really appreciate being invited, and I really appreciate the fact that you allow me to speak to your audience. So today we're going to talk about a blueprint for rainmaking success. Now, I got to tell you, wishing, hoping, praying is not a rainmaking strategy, nor is the idea of hanging out a shingle or building a website and then clients will beat a path to your door. I call this the field of dreams method of marketing, and too many attorneys are engaging in it. Just because you build it doesn't mean they'll come. You know, in 1927, when my grandfather began practicing law, this was a viable method of marketing. You could literally hang a sign outside your door and people would beat a path to your door. But in 2015, that's just not going to work. According to the ABA, there are 1.3 million attorneys in the United States, and unless you find a way to let people know what you do, they will never hire you. And besides, we're also competing with services such as LegalZoom and other websites that have commoditized the law. The other method of marketing is a technique that all attorneys seem to have, which is getting distracted by bright, shiny object syndrome. This is when they try the latest and greatest marketing technique. So, for example, you may be having problems finding and retaining clients, so you turn to the internet and you do a search on how to get new clients, and you see someone who claims to be a legal marketing guru or a rainmaking expert, and you jump in with both feet because they promise new clients will be a path to your door if only you pay them a lot of money. Or maybe they promise you that they can build you a 7-figure law firm in 10 days or less. Yeah. Or maybe they could teach you to be #1 on Google if you purchase our expensive SEO services. Look, these infomercials are designed to separate you from your hard-earned cash and really won't bring in the clients that you want. There's another technique of marketing out there that a lot of attorneys seem to turn to, which is the throw it against the wall and see if it sticks method of marketing. Now, for those who don't know what that cliche means or who don't cook, this actually is a technique for seeing if pasta is ready, spaghetti is ready. So you take the spaghetti out of the pot and you throw it against the wall, and if it sticks, it's done. So maybe you've joined every social media site that you see on this slide. You may even post on some of them, and you're not getting clients. So you conclude social media doesn't work for getting clients. Or maybe you go to a networking event and you collect a bunch of business cards, or you hand out a bunch of business cards and no one calls you or refers you clients. So you say, networking doesn't work for getting clients. The truth is, any marketing that you do can be really effective for getting clients as long as you find a way to actually connect with people. And this is because rainmaking equals relationships. You have to learn how to create relationships with prospective clients, your current clients, your former clients, and referral sources, because we are still a person-to-person based business. You may have heard the oft-used phrase, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. What marketing your services does is create the know and like part of the equation. And the fact is that marketing your services in a non-salesy way, or not by advertising and pushing your messages out, you can actually create yourself as an authority. You can position yourself as a go-to expert in your chosen area of law. And social media, by the way, is just one way of doing it. And what you need to do is then create digital relationships. But like any relationship in the real world, just because you connect with them doesn't create a relationship. So just because you friended somebody on Facebook or followed them on Twitter or linked with them on LinkedIn, it doesn't mean you actually have a relationship. You have to find out about them. You have to find out what their problems are. What do they need? This starts to create the relationship. There's a great author out there. His name is Ted Rubin. He's a social media strategist. And Ted Rubin has written a fantastic book called Looking Them in the Eye Digitally, which is how he teaches people how to create relationships online. So I do recommend that book. Again, Ted Rubin, Look Them in the Eye Digitally. By the way, the same is true about going to any networking event and collecting business cards and then doing nothing with them. How many business cards do you have sitting in that small drawer at the top of your desk? Or maybe they're rubber banded and they're put in a little corner. If you do nothing with them, you cannot create relationships. As with any relationships, it takes time and effort. You would not walk up to a woman or a man that you see on the street and ask them to marry you, not knowing anything about them. First of all, what if they're already married? Second of all, what if they have a significant other, or they just think you're plain disgusting? The likelihood of you getting a yes to the question, will you marry me, is slim to none. And P.S., do you really want to marry somebody who's going to say yes when you ask them and you don't know them at all? So because creating relationships takes time and effort, you have to create a plan for doing the activities that will help you create those relationships, which will then in turn help you create the practice that you want. As Benjamin Franklin has once said, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Which brings us to our very first poll question. So, are we ready to launch the poll question?
Yep, go ahead and ask the questions. Yeah,
fantastic. The question is, do you have a rainmaking plan? And your answer, your choices are, yes, I write one every year. B, I've written one in the past but did nothing with it. C, I've thought about it but don't see the point. Or D, what's a rainmaking plan?
Okay, great. Thanks, Jaimie. I have launched the poll, and people are voting right now. If everyone could please finish up and get your votes in. Okay, that looks like the majority has voted. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share our results. Okay, so the results are, do you have a rainmaking plan? 13% said yes, I write one every year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's higher than I expected. 34% said I've written one in the past but did nothing with it. 12%, I've thought about it but don't get the point. And then our vast majority, so 42% said, what's a rainmaking plan?
and I'm pleasantly surprised for the 13%, so thank you very much for those 13%. You're on the right track. As for B, C, and D, B, you're fantastic too. You've actually written something, and we'll talk about some of the statistics about just writing one. And C and D, we can certainly make sure that you understand why you need to have a rainmaking plan. So let's do that. Why you need to have a rainmaking plan. Listen, a rainmaking plan forces you to clarify your goals. Particularly when we learn a little bit later in this program how to effectively write goals. Once you have these goals written down, you can actually act upon them. A rainmaking plan also gives you a program which you can follow that suits your particular needs. If you don't create your plan, somebody else will create it for you, and you will be doing what they want you to do. So you have to do what you think is best for your individual practice. And we'll talk a little bit about how you can dovetail that with the law firm if you're in a firm. But there's an old saying that says, if you don't have a plan, somebody else will have a plan for you. And what do they have planned for you? Not much. Your written goals help you commit to your success. It also helps to keep you on track. You know, we're bombarded daily with distractions and information that aren't helpful to your success. And having a plan keeps you focused on what's important and what you need to get done and want to get done. Think of it this way. If you've ever gone into a supermarket without a food shopping list, do you ever find yourself walking out with items you truly don't need and then also remembering things you forgot later, like the eggs? I know that's happened to me. And by the way, because of not having shopping lists, I have 4 jars of Dijon mustard because every single time I go in, I think I have Dijon mustard. I don't know why. All right, a written plan also helps free your mind and take your thinking to the next level. There's a lot of information out there, and it's a lot of stuff that becomes head trash. What a plan does is it allows you to dump that head trash out onto paper, and it frees your minds to concentrate on the things that you need to get done. And it's also proven that you are more likely to become successful with a written plan. Look, I'm a huge, huge devotee of personal development and business development literature. Some people call it self-help, but I truly hate that phrase because it implies that there's something wrong with me. Instead, I actually like to call it success literature because I like to think it will help guide me to the success that I want to become. Anyway, in a whole bunch of these different books, some of them by the best personal and business development authors out there, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, they all seem to use the same anecdote about why having written goals is important. Have you ever heard of the goal study of the Yale class of 1953? As the legend goes, 3% of the graduates of that class wrote down their goals upon graduation. And 20 years later, they revisited these people and found out that these 3% out-earned the other 97% combined. Or sometimes the story says it wasn't Yale, but it was Harvard in 1979. And it wasn't 3% of the class that wrote down their goals, it was 5% of their class, and that 5% of that Harvard 79 class outperformed the other 95% combined. Well, it turns out that this entire story is fictitious. And I have actually made the mistake of quoting that story myself, no longer. But in 1996, Fast Company magazine discovered that the studies never happened. But someone actually did do the study. And in 2007, a Dr. Gail Matthews at Dominican University in California did a study of students who tracked their goal achievements, comparing groups who wrote down their goals to those who didn't. She found out that just writing down your goals contributed to a 42% increase in goal achievement. So congratulations, the B responders. I've written one down in the past but did nothing with it, because you were 42% more likely to be successful than those people who didn't write down goals at all. However, those who translated the goals into action and made a commitment, for example, to a friend or to a mentor, and then provided weekly progress reports, they actually increased their goal achievement by 78%. Is a 78% increase in the probability of your success worth the effort of writing your goals and taking actions on them? Personally, I think so, and I do one every single year. Now, if you want a copy of the study, please feel free to send me an email, and I'll be happy to send it to you. So, if you're going to write down a rainmaking plan, you need to know what the elements of a rainmaking plan are. The elements of an effective rainmaking plan are not many. Yeah, you can find other marketing and business development experts and gurus who will give you all of these different pieces that you have to do. For example, have a mission statement, doing something called a SWOT analysis, S-W-O-T, creating a formal budget, things like this. By the way, a SWOT analysis, S-W-O-T, stands for analyzing your strengths, weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. And these are great to include in something like a firm-wide plan, but it's really unnecessary in your personal rainmaking plan. In fact, you only need to figure out three different things. The first, who are your ideal clients? What is your ideal niche? Second thing is, what are the goals you want to achieve? And the third element of the rainmaking plan is, how are you going to achieve those goals? If you can figure out those three things, you've got the makings of an amazing rainmaking plan. And then there are only three objectives that you need to achieve to become a rainmaker. One is to become a subject authority in your chosen industry, field, or niche. Two, let people know what you know. And three, create relationships with the right people who can either refer you business or who will hire you as clients. So let's talk a little bit about the ideal clients. Well, the day of generalization is over. It's been over for quite a while. No longer can an attorney be all things to all people. And by the way, the only caveat to this statement is if you're in a small town and you are the only lawyer in the town, then yes, you can be a general practitioner. But because the laws are becoming so specific and become extremely complex, with new legislation being passed constantly that affect each segment of practice, when we leave law school, we sort of become drawn to certain practice areas: criminal law, insurance law, matrimonial law, taxation, just to name a few. And while becoming a practice area specialist can result in bringing in legal matters, it's actually becoming harder and harder to obtain clients just because you practice law in a specific area. This is because the amount of competition out there is tremendous. For example, according to the ABA website, there are more than 25,000 members of the labor and employment section, labor and employment law section of the ABA. And those are the people who are actually members. Competition for clients can become ferocious. So finding your ideal clients means targeting a niche. And you may have heard of niche marketing or target marketing. So how do you figure out who your ideal clients are? Well, your ideal clients or your niche clients can be very broad or very narrowly focused. And they can be defined by different demographic information. For example, age. Another one might be gender. For example, there's a very fast-growing national law firm called Cordell & Cordell that represents only men in family law issues. There's also location. There's ethnicity. And I have a client, for example, who because she speaks Korean, only works with Korean business owners on their employment and labor law issues. There's lifestyle. Maybe you want to work with the LGBT community. Maybe there's a specific type of community that you do want to work with. There's industries. You can pick any one of thousands of industries out there that you can become known as the go-to expert for. There's hobbies. One of my clients actually has created a practice based on his hobby of craft brewing. He is now positioning himself as the craft brewing attorney, or the attorney for craft breweries in North Carolina. There's the SEC codes, which is part of the industries, but you can specifically narrow it down to an SEC code. And of course, there's also socioeconomic. So you can decide to become the trust and estates attorney to the highest net worth individuals on the planet. Whatever market or whatever niche you decide, what makes it a niche is that it's concentrated. It's a well-defined segment of the population who engage in the same behaviors, wants, or needs. So with all of these different demographic ideas, how do you find the perfect niche for you? Well, ask yourself the following questions. Who do I like to work with? What's of interest to me? This is important. Can they pay my fees? Is the market large enough? There are a lot of markets out there that aren't going to be big enough. Now, it doesn't mean you can't go after that market and then develop another niche thereafter. But if the market is a small market and there are 50,000 attorneys going after that market, do you really want to work with the competition? Which brings us to the next question. Who actually is my competition? You need to know who's out there doing what you want to do. And finally, do I really understand my market? If you want to become a rainmaker, regardless of what industry, niche, or market you choose to be in, you need to know everything about that market. You need to know what keeps those people up at night, every single night. I have one other question that you should ask yourself. Where can I find them? Now, by the way, almost every one of those different demographic targets that was on the last slide actually has an association that you can join. So, for example, if you want to be the divorce attorney to car dealership owners, which, by the way, one of my clients has become, you can join a number of different automobile dealership associations. You can write for their magazines and create relationships with their members, which leads us to poll question number 2. Do you have a target market? And the answers to these questions are A, no, I work for anyone who walks in the door. 2, I'm not really sure. 3, sort of, but I'm really inconsistent. And 4, yes, and I find a way to position myself as an authority in front of them consistently.
Okay, great questions, Jaimie. And everyone is busy voting. If you can all go ahead and wrap up the vote, I'll go ahead and close the polls. Okay, and our results. 10%, no, I work for anyone who walks in the door, as an answer to, do you have a target market? 11% say, I'm not really sure. 44%, so that's our majority, say sort of, but I'm really inconsistent. And 35% say yes, and I position myself as an authority in front of them, so that's very impressive.
Those are very interesting poll results, and I'm really happy about them because target marketing and niche marketing is something that is going to become very important in your rainmaking plan when you decide to develop one. And for those who are still anybody who walks in the door and I'm not really sure, the fact is that once you begin focusing on a specific ideal client, you actually begin to attract those clients to you. It's a very interesting thing that happens in your brain. There's a piece of the brain called, in fact, one of the things that I normally do is when we talk about determining your ideal client, one of the assignments I give to my clients is that they write a list of all of the attributes of their perfect client, including the fact that they pay. I even ask them to think about their personalities. So I'll make that suggestion to you. Write a bullet point list of every attribute, including the fact that they can pay, that you want in a perfect client, including the industry or the target market that you want to be known as the authority in. Now, there's a piece of the brain called the RAC, the Reticular Activating System or Center. And what it does is when you input information into your brain, it actually filters out all of the other noise out there. So I always use this particular example. If you've ever decided that you want to buy a car and you start doing research on a car and you figure out what car you want to buy, all of a sudden you're going to seemingly see that car on the road all the time. Is it because everybody is now driving that car you want? No, it's because your brain is actually filtering out all the rest of the cars so that you literally only see that car. That's what the RAC does. So when you do this ideal client list, all of a sudden you're starting to meet people who can help you figure out where to find these people, and you start meeting these people because they're filtering out a lot of the other noise. But it also works in terms of creating your goals. So that's the second part of your rainmaking plan. What are your goals? Excuse me for one moment, everybody. I apologize, a little bit of allergies. All right, so now you've decided on your ideal client. We're going to discuss how to effectively set goals in a couple of minutes. And your rainmaking plan is really about your career and financial goals. But I am truly of the opinion that if you want to have a great life, and that's something that I insist upon with all of my clients, that not only do they have a great career, but they have a great life. You have to have goals in a lot of different areas. And there are 5 of them. So one of the goals is your physical and health goals. If you are not healthy, it doesn't matter how good of a career you have, honestly. So you should have physical and health goals. You should have home and family goals if you want to keep your family intact. Let's, for example, say for your home you want to redecorate or you want to buy a new one. That's a goal. There's also your friends and social goals. What fun things do you like to do? You got to have goals in these areas because it will help you actually start doing them more on a regular basis. And finally, your intellectual and spiritual goals. And when I say spiritual goals, by the way, I am not talking about your religious beliefs. I really don't care what your religious beliefs are. For me, spiritual goals are the moral boundaries that you will not cross. And I think that that's an important thing in everybody's life. So How do you actually set goals? And this is important. From time immemorial, personal development and business development authors and gurus have been writing how to create effective goals. They have used the SMART acronym to describe the best way to write a goal to make it easy to achieve. So what SMART stands for is specific, the M is for measurable, the A is for actionable, or you can take action steps on it. The R is realistic, and the T is time-bound, or it has a deadline. So I'm going to use an example that has nothing to do with business right now, but it's one that I think many people can understand: trying to lose weight. If you say, I want to lose weight, that's not a goal. That's a wish. That's a hope. That's a dream. However, if you say, I weigh 10 pounds less by December 31st, that's a fantastically smart set goal. Why? It's specific. You know exactly how much weight you want to lose. 10 pounds. It's measurable. 10 pounds is 10 pounds. And you can measure the loss as you go along. It's actionable. You have to actually do something to lose the weight. You can't just sit on your couch, binge watching Orange is the New Black, and eating Oreos and expect to lose weight. Although I have tried and it doesn't always work. Sorry. And it's realistic. Can you lose 10 pounds in the next 10 weeks? Yeah, it's about a pound a week, and the average person can lose about a pound a week. So, yeah, it's realistic. And it's also time-bound. You have a deadline, December 31st. But, for example, saying, I want to lose 100 pounds by December 31st, that's not even realistic. Not unless you lose an arm and 2 legs, and I hope that never happens. What you're doing there is you're setting yourself up for failure. So you should set your goals in a way that are realistic, but also actually cause you to push, to stretch a little bit, so that you're actually striving for something a little bit harder than what you would actually need to do. Now, the one difference, by the way, with all of the goal-setting gurus out there is that I've actually added an extra letter to this to make it SMARTy goals, because I realized that there's one component that you truly need to have if you want to be able to achieve your goals, and that's the why, which stands for yours, as in it's your goal, and it stands for why do you want to achieve this. So you have to understand that people will only do things when they actually have a compelling reason to do so. And whether that reason is positive or negative, you still actually need a reason to do it. So, for example, if you have to pay your mortgage this month and you don't have that much money, you are going to find a way to achieve that goal, to pay that mortgage. If you have to put food on the table for your kids, you are going to find a way to do that. That becomes your why. So, in our example of losing weight, you have to have a reason why, or you won't do the things necessary to lose the weight. You'll still eat junk food instead of vegetables, or you'll still sit on the couch instead of going to the gym. So it's important for the why to be your goal, not anyone else's. So in this case, maybe your goal is that you have some special event coming up. That's a good why. For example, I have my 30th reunion coming up. Oh my God, I have my 30th reunion coming up. High school, by the way, high school. So my goal is important to me because I want to look good for this event. The only caveat, by the way, to the yours is if there's a negative, something negative that you don't want to happen, And that would be, for example, a doctor saying to you, if you don't lose the weight, you will die. Then that becomes a compelling reason to lose the weight. But if you want to if you say, I want to run the marathon, the New York City Marathon, next year in 2016, and you really don't, you'll never do the work necessary to run the New York City Marathon. The other thing is that that why has to be very motivating to you. So, let's say you've set your goals for your practice, and one of them is to obtain 3 new clients for the end of the year. The question becomes, how are you going to do this? Well, this is where rainmaking tactics you need to employ come in handy. Unfortunately, we don't have, I'm looking at my watch, we don't have much time left to describe how to use each tactic successfully for rainmaking, but I do want to say that each tactic you can use for marketing can also be used for rainmaking, as long as you remember you have to create relationships. So each of these tactics posted on this page, blogging, networking, videoing, social media, public speaking, or newsletters, brochures, any of these can be used in terms of marketing, and these are marketing tactics. But you need to turn them into rainmaking tactics. And the way you do that is to create relationships with these different tactics. Look, getting your name out in front of these people, creating your authority as the go-to expert is important. Being top of mind is very important because, very simply, out of sight equals out of mind. And if you're not the person they're seeing on a regular basis, they're not going to remember to send you the referrals or hire you as a potential attorney. So this becomes very important for you to do those marketing aspects of these rainmaking tactics. But you can take it to the next step by creating relationships with the people who read your blog posts or who read your social media posts or that you meet at networking events or who watch your videos or even who come to presentations that you give. You can turn all of those into relationships. Let me talk, for example, about social media. Instead of treating social media as a place to push your information out, like advertising, which is what most attorneys do, what you need to do is to treat whatever social media site you are on like a giant cocktail party. These are people who you need to get to know. So start asking them questions. Get to know who they are as human beings. Find out what it is that they need to make their life successful, and they will in turn find a way to make your life successful. The other thing you have to understand is that regardless of what rainmaking tactic you use, you must take consistent and constant action. I know, you don't have the time to put these rainmaking activities into your schedule. First of all, I call BS. I can prove mathematically that you have 7 hours a day. That's 35 hours a week, and this is just during the business week, Monday through Friday, to do anything you want, including rainmaking activities, even if you're required to bill 2,000 hours a year. So think about this for a second. How much time are you actually wasting on other distractions that will not help you achieve your goals? Look, the internet is a huge one for me. I have a tendency to get what I call link lost. And what that is you're reading a story and then they have another link in the story. So I click on that link and I open it up in a new tab, finish reading the first story, go to the second one, and then continue doing that. And the next thing I know, an hour has passed. That's not an effective use of my time. So you get the idea with that. But did you know that the average American, according to Nielsen, watches 5 hours of television a day? What if instead of that 5 hours of television, you took some time to put a rainmaking activity in? Look, I'm not saying you have to use all 35 hours. But instead of those 7 hours, if you used 1 hour per day, and I'm only talking about during the business week, you have done 5 hours of business development or rainmaking development for your business. And it's probably a heck of a lot more than you're doing now. What if you only have 15 minutes in a day? You can do it. Just 15 minutes to send a quick note to somebody you haven't spoken to, or a referral source to grab a cup of coffee or schedule a lunch. And you can rainmake anywhere. Do you have children? If you have children, are you a soccer mom or a soccer dad or karate mom or dad or any one of those activities your children do? Do all of the other parents know what you do for a living? And I mean specifically know what you do, not I'm an attorney, but specifically know what you do and who your ideal client is. If they don't, they should, because you never know who they know. In addition to that, do you know what they do for a living? And can you find a way to help them? That's what creating that relationship is all about. A quick rainmaking tip you can use right now, by the way. Make a list of the top 5 to 10 clients you've ever worked with, and then just contact them. These are people you might not have spoken to in quite a while. Just contact them. Send an email, pick up the phone, and just say something like, your name came to mind, I just want to find out how you're doing. You're not pitching anything, you're not selling anything, you're just catching up to reconnect that relationship. What invariably happens with most of my clients who do this is at least one of them says, hey, you know, I might have a client for you. Or something comes up in the very near future because you put your name back into their heads. So it is my suggestion that you keep a personal contact list and that you keep in touch with these people regularly. Send out birthday cards. I know it sounds like old-fashioned, but send out birthday cards. And by the way, real birthday cards, and not just going on Facebook and wishing them a happy birthday on Facebook. Send them a birthday card. Send them a holiday card. Nobody gets mail anymore. And if you get a card in the mail, don't you remember who the person is who sent it to you? So it's just my suggestion. And by the way, there's a bunch of different programs you can do to automate this. You literally put everybody's birthdays and names into a database, and then it will remind you when their birthday's coming up, and it will actually ask you which card you want to send, and you can fill out personalized greetings. So there's a lot of different things you can do with regard to keeping in touch and creating those relationships. Don't forget to join associations where your ideal clients are, but you've got to become involved. You have to be active in these associations for people to get to know, like, and trust you. And one last thing about rainmaking tactics. Remember the throw it against the wall and see if it sticks method of marketing? It doesn't work. Just doing something once and then deciding because you didn't get a client immediately, it doesn't work. That's foolish. Rainmaking the right way is something that you do on a long-term basis. You have to consistently use a tactic, whatever that tactic is, and over time you will see it becomes an avenue for new clients and for new referral sources. So pick 1 or 2 tactics that you're comfortable using. For example, if you can't stand public speaking, don't do it. Although I would push you towards doing the things that you fear, because the things that you fear are the things that you need to get done. But don't public speak if it really makes you that uncomfortable. Write instead. So blog, write a newsletter, write an article for a specific journal or in trade magazine, and then use it consistently to grow your authority and to start creating those relationships. All right, so you have your ideal clients. you have your goals, and you know what tactics you're going to use to try to achieve those goals. Now you have to execute it. And executing the rainmaking plan. The best way to do this is to take your goal and to break it down into bite-sized pieces. There's an old joke out there. How do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time. It's the same thing with goals. And every major goal you have can be broken down into bite-sized, smaller goals. And you write them the exact same way. They'd still be specific, measurable, have an actionability to it, be realistic, and be time-bound. So that, let's use that example of the weight loss again. If you want to lose 10 pounds in 8 weeks, what do you have to do each month to achieve that goal? What do you have to do each week? And what do you have to do each day? The same thing goes with your rainmaking. If you want to create relationships, you have to schedule time in your calendar each month, each week, each day to spend time creating the authority in your niche, meeting the right people online and off, and taking those relationships to the next level. So schedule each action step that you can take. And it's been proven time and time again, that which gets scheduled gets done. So what I suggest to my clients is that they turn their to-dos into actual appointments. If you don't, what usually happens is that the day takes over and you put those to-dos on the back burner, particularly if you aren't actually billing for them. So if you don't do the activities, you don't bring in the clients. And when you're done with the matters that you're working on right now, you're scrambling to get new clients. It becomes feast or famine. Stop that cycle by consistently and constantly finding a way to market your services and create relationships with people on a daily basis, monthly, weekly, daily. It could be something as small as congratulating somebody on LinkedIn when the program tells you that it's their anniversary of their specific employment date, or it can be sending an article of interest to somebody that you know. By the way, not an article of your interest, an article that's of interest to them. The key is to take action. So what you have after this webinar is a great starting point for creating your rainmaking plan. Remember, the steps are: determine your ideal clients, write down your goals, figure out how you're going to achieve those goals using the various rainmaking techniques and tactics, and then take action. And because creating a rainmaking plan is something for which I can spend hours upon hours teaching you how to do, and since we've only had about 15 minutes to do this, I'm currently offering a blueprint for Rainmaking Success Bootcamp. The offer is actually only being made on this webinar, and it's not being made to the general legal public. And it's also being offered at a 60% discount from my usual rate. So what you get is on 4 consecutive Mondays in November, beginning November 2nd, 4 60-minute live group coaching and training calls, an open question and answer on every call so that every question can be answered. And by the way, that's in addition to the 60 minutes. Worksheets for all calls to help you develop your 2016 rainmaking plan. A private Facebook page where the group members can actually discuss their plans, help each other, and ask questions of me or anybody else. And as a bonus, because there's actually 5 Mondays in November, we're going to have a final call on Monday, November 30th, to wrap it all up. So the quick thing is that I'm limiting this to 10 attorneys because I want to enable every single person to have personalized attention. If more than 10 attorneys decide that they want to do this, I will be doing another session in December. But this will be on a first-come, first-pay basis. And any other attorneys who respond get listed on the wait list for December. And again, if you do join in December, you are going to be able to have a fully formed plan by January 1st. So if you are interested, please go to this page. And I see that Stephanie has actually put the exclusive link for the MyCase members only to the plan. What it's going to ask you to do after you read all the information is send me an email telling me you're interested. And if you are, I will send you out an invoice immediately. Once you pay it, you're in. So the first 10 people to pay, the first 10 people who are in for that particular this particular session. I want to thank you all for coming, and I'm going to bring Stephanie back on so we can wrap this up and she can tell me if there are any questions.
Okay, great. And Jaimie, if you don't mind just going to that next slide for a quick moment.
I apologize. Sure. There you go.
Not a problem at all. Just wanted to remind everyone, if you have to leave us now, just take note of a few things. And that promo code on the bottom there, that's just for you since you attended today. So we offer a free 30-day trial, and because you attended this webinar today, you get this bonus discount. So note that promo code. It's 10RAI, as in the beginning of rain, 15. So 10RAI 15. Secondly, when you close your webinar today, a 5-question survey will pop up. Please take a moment to answer these questions, and we will randomly select one lucky survey responder to receive a $50 Amazon gift card, so worth your while, good odds there. And also, a few people had asked throughout the webinar, you will receive an email tomorrow with a link to the blog where you will find these slides, the webinar recording, and the Amazon gift card winner. And yes, you will be able to download those slides. We're not going to have that exclusive information that Jaimie provided earlier, but everything else will be there, so you'll be able to review these later. And now for some of these... Can I just stop you for one quick session? If you are interested in seeing the information on the Blueprint for Rainmaking Success Bootcamp, I would suggest that you click the link and just save that page, because like she said, it's not going to be available on the slides when the slides come back tomorrow. Or send me an email if you don't get it, and I know you were on this slide, on this program. Okay, awesome. Awesome, Jaimie. And there were some really great questions that came in, so I'll go ahead and ask a few of those for you. Would you suggest that we show our rainmaking plans to anyone else, and if so, to whom?
You know, there are a lot of different theories on that. I personally like having somebody to be accountable to. So if you have a mentor in your firm or somebody that you truly trust, then I would suggest that you do show it to them. Because what showing it does is it will actually make you feel like you need to get it done. It sort of holds you accountable. It's like when you make an announcement, I'm going to, and then whatever that blank is, and you make an announcement in public. If you don't do it, you kind of feel like, oops, I'm a liar. So sometimes putting it out there with some people, and by the way, that person can be your spouse. Or your significant other. It doesn't have to be somebody in the office, just somebody who is, A, going to be supportive of you, B, going to hold you accountable to do the things you promised to do, and C, one of the things that you can do is to make sure that they're positive. If it's anybody who's negative, don't show it to them, because jealousy, if you start accomplishing your goals and they're not, it is not something that you want to deal with, and it does happen. By the way, one of the things that, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to pitch, I can hold you accountable if that's something that you would like. So if you decide to join the class, you will be held accountable, trust me.
Sounds like it. Okay, so our next question. What is your advice for a newer attorney, 1 to 2 years practicing, to become a rainmaker? I work at a firm and I'm usually given my assignments. How do I approach the firm about a field we may not currently serve?
Well, that's 2 different questions. First, for any new attorneys, for any young lawyers out there or newer attorneys who are just starting out in the practice, don't wait to start doing activities that would create relationships with other people. And whether it's joining associations and networking, which unfortunately in one of my clients' cases, that's all he is allowed to do. because we've suggested he speaks in front of some of these associations, et cetera, and his firm doesn't want to let him. But he can go out and network with these people, and by doing so, he is creating relationships with them. Whether it's that or whether you start putting information out that creates an authority, you should start as soon as possible. And it doesn't have to be as extensive as somebody who's 5, 6, 7 years in, but it should be started, and it should be part of your daily routine or your weekly routine as a young lawyer, or as a newly minted lawyer, because I know that there are some people who went to law school after as a second career, which I think is fantastic. With regard to starting a new industry, I would talk to your immediate supervisor and see if it's something that would be of interest to them. If they say no, unfortunately, you either have two choices. You can continue to try to develop those relationships, but you're not going to be supported. Or you can try to find one that's going to be accepted by the firms that you're in. And I know that there are some firms, you also have to make sure that there's no conflict of interest in certain industries that you're involved in. So if you're looking to be in the computer industry, but you represent the other side of the computer industry, for example, the manufacturers versus the actual computer programmers or something like that, the fact is that if there's conflicts of interest, it's not going to be easy to get your firm on board. I hope that answers that person's question. Please ask them to ask a follow-up if it doesn't.
Okay, great. And Jaimie, and I'll ask you if you can go back to your previous slide, because I have had a few questions about that link again, so we can get everyone on board with that exclusive link.
Yeah, give me a second. I got to go back to that.
And
look at all this fun animation. I had so much fun putting this together. There we go.
Yeah, that's cool animation. There's that slide at the bottom for everyone who is asking for that again. And I think we have time for one last question, and that is coming from an attorney who does estate planning. So she said, last time I checked, the death rate for residents of my state was 100%. My firm's focus is on estate planning and estate administration. How do you filter down and target an ideal client from there?
I'm sorry, you were a little garbled on that, so say that one more time.
Sure. So this is coming from someone whose focus is on estate planning and estate administration. And she says, the last time I checked, the death rate for residents of my state was 100%. How do you filter down and target an ideal client from there?
The fact is that you can't be 100%, you can't work with all 100%. But what if you became the estate planning attorney for a specific niche and grew yourself out that way? By understanding everything in that niche. So, for example, if you, yes, the death rate is 100%. You're absolutely right. Well, except maybe not, because I plan on living forever. I really do. I'm working on it. I don't know how, but I'm working on it. But seriously, if you, for example, decide to become the estate planning attorney for people who work in a specific industry, one of the things that you learn is all about their 401ks and how that, what specifically goes into that specific industry, and what are the problems they may have in case of death in that. So I'm talking a little bit esoteric, so let's try this. If you become the estate planning attorney for CEOs, it's a lot different than becoming an estate planning attorney for somebody who is just an employee. There's different issues that they're going to have with regard to those estate plans and those trusts that you're going to have to build in order to make sure that they're protected. It's the same thing as if you decide to become a trust and estates attorney for parents of special needs children. That's another niche that you could potentially use. And that one is a big niche nowadays because people want to know that their kids are going to be taken care of when they're not going to be able to take care of them. And with special needs, and I don't care what their special needs are, whether they're mental or physical, They still want to know that their kids are going to be protected. So that could be something that you sort of position yourself. I'm not saying you can't take clients who call you up and say, I need a will. But wouldn't it be great if you become known as the special needs trust and estates attorney, or the trust and estates attorney for the Fortune 500 CEOs? So you can find a way to position yourself that way. And the same thing, if I didn't answer your question, feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to go further.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. You answered that question very thoroughly, I thought. And you had a great presentation. So thank you, Jaimie, so much for joining us today. And thanks to all those that attended. The slides, you'll be getting an email tomorrow with the slides, the recap, and the recording. So don't worry about that. So thank you all for joining us. We hope to see you next month as well. Thanks, Jaimie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.